Welcome to our webinar. We're going to talk to you about the Accelerated Leadership Program at Harvard Law School Executive Education. We will introduce ourselves first, right? I'm Carrie Fletcher, an affiliate instructor in Exec Ed, and have been involved with this program for almost since its inception. And I'm a lawyer by training, do a lot of other things, primarily around leadership development in the law. And Kevin, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself and also talk about why are we here and why Harvard Law School Exec Ed.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Carrie. So my name's Kevin Doolan. I spent 25 years as a law firm partner, the last 10 years on the management board as head of client services. And in 2013, I joined the faculty at Harvard Law School Executive Education. And 2014, I joined the Professional Service Firms Group at the University of Cambridge. So I spent just over 10 years now teaching and consulting on professional service firms leadership. The program From Lawyer to Leader, the idea behind this is that this is a key moment of transition. And how we phrase this often is we say, what got you here won't get you there. What we mean by that is that in order to achieve partnership in a law firm, it's very much about delivering legal services to your clients. It involves very hard work, as you will have noticed, project management, recording time, billing it, recruiting and managing a team. And these are the things that got you to that stage. But in order to be a successful partner, there's a real transition required. And so this is about that moment of transition. And through all of the work I've been doing, I would say that this tends to occur either very soon after partnership, because sometimes new partners say to me that they had a huge amount of mentoring and support as they built their way towards partnership. There's lots of advice given. This is what you need to do to tick the boxes to get it. And in some firms, that can fall away when you get to partnership. And it's kind of, well, you've made it now, off you go. And in other cases, it's 4 or 5 years in when a partner's been working hard and thinking, well, where am I going? And if we can click on to the next slide. One of the key challenges for partners is this. If you don't change and transition from this work delivery into what we call a leadership role, then you can end up with this situation. And this is an actual quote from a partner saying, as I moved through the firm, I just did more and more work. It was just a faster and faster hamster wheel. And that's the problem if you don't transition. If you stay at what we'll call the management level, where you're delivering work, and the focus then tends to be on the quarterly and annual budgets and delivering. And I would say that the whole idea of transitioning to leadership is to lift your eyes, really. And if we can go on to the next slide, Carrie will start talking about what that transition means in terms of our program.
I will, and actually I'll chime in one thing on this slide. This feeling of doing more and more work, it's the same amount or more legal work, direct client service work, also managing people more, managing projects more, trying to understand what does that even mean to be a leader? I'm on a committee, I'm taking these other responsibilities, but it just keeps sort of piling up in a way that can feel a little bit unsustainable. And as Kevin mentioned, this is a quote from Research Interviews. This is a direct quote from a real live partner, but we hear a version of this quote all the time when we talk to partners, and not only partners, by the way, also inside lawyers who are struggling with the same parallel set of challenges as they move through their organizations. And also from business side legal leaders in law firms, so like C-suite or managing director people who've got a high profile role, but again are in this environment of everybody's doing all their day-to-day work and also trying to add these different things on top. So what are we trying to do in this program? What we're trying to do is help you begin to figure out, take the time and space to both step away and really reflect. It's a very reflective and sort of intense, immersive program, focusing on building out a different set of skills that you may not have fully developed yet. So thinking about how do you move from, just a legal expert to someone who's a true trusted advisor and partner, thinking in a different way about strategy, organizational strategy, but also in particular with respect to the area in which you work, or your department or your group, or yourself, right? So where are you aligning with strategy, or are you not even thinking strategically? We talk quite a lot about leading teams effectively and motivating and inspiring people, which is one of the cornerstones of being a good leader. We have some practical things in there, particularly about winning clients and winning new work from existing clients. And really the whole thing is, how can you start building the foundations for your future success that goes beyond just being successful in your practice. We obviously host the program at our beautiful space on the Harvard Law School campus in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And we have what we think is a really top tier faculty. Scott Westfall, who's the program co-chair and also professor of practice and the academic director of executive education in the law school. Me, Kevin, Heidi Gardner, who is one of our distinguished research fellows and an expert on professional services firm collaboration in particular, as well as lots of other things. Ashish Nanda, who's from Harvard Business School and who has worked with the law school for many, many years. Same for Felix. And then David Wilkins, who's a professor at the law school and then one of the founders of executive education, and also runs our Center on the Legal Profession, which is effectively the research arm that we partner with quite a lot as we figure out what do we care about bringing into the profession, what are we teaching people about when they come into our classroom. So this set of people brings an incredibly deep knowledge of the legal profession in general, but also the experience people are having as they move through that profession and try to grow into leadership roles within the profession. So what do we do? It is a unique and intensive immersive experience, and people come out saying amazing things like it's life-changing and they didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It is truly immersive. So you come to our campus, we are in the classroom with you for 4 days. They are long, busy days. We teach often using the Harvard case study method, which for those of you who have not been to business school will be very different from what you experienced in law school. And it does require pre-work and pre-reading of the cases, and we're serious about that. So we always have somebody who is a bit taken aback on day one when they get asked a direct question about some detail of the case. We sometimes present material by lecture, but our lectures are always very interactive. Lots of collaborative exercise with the other people in the room. Our goal throughout the 4 days is to provide you with actual tips, frameworks, techniques, and plans that enable you to put into practice all of the researched back learning that we're going to share with you. And so we culminate in getting you started in a strong way on building your own personal leadership action plan so that you can start putting all of these ideas to use. So how is it immersive? It's residential. We work with a hotel that is about a block from the law school. So everybody's there all together. We come to class in the morning. We stay in class all day. We have dinners. We have some shared activities. There's a campus tour. You are partaking in a really rigorous, but fun, but rigorous learning experience with your peers in the classroom. You will definitely make new friends and grow your network. We have WhatsApp groups of partners who've come on our programs a decade ago who are still active every week in the WhatsApp chat that the group created. But it is immersive and it takes a lot of attention. So this is not the kind of program that you can sort of pop in and out of. We leave quite long breaks, about 30-minute breaks throughout the day, a few different times. So if people have to do something, they can try to do it in the break, or we always understand if somebody has to step out and deal with a client emergency. But the program builds upon itself. And so it's not like a conference or something where you kind of go and pop into the things that are interesting and don't come to the other ones. It's, if you come, you're really sort of in it for the long haul, the whole 4 days. We use the case study method. It's a business school style of teaching. It's very interactive and it's very different. And it has these sort of 3 phases. You will have been given a case study ahead of time, and it will be discussed with probably shocking specificity before when you come into the room. And then we will analyze why the protagonists of the case are in the situation that they're in and what do we think they should do. In virtually every case study session, the room will not be agreed on what they should do, which is what makes the discussion interesting. And then as we work through that discussion about what's happening in the case that we're studying, we start to draw out some lessons about leadership from what we've seen in a case and also what can we learn from each other in the room. And then we tie those back to your own leadership experience. Kevin, I'll give it back to you.
Thanks, Carrie. And I can say from extensive experience on both ends of the case study method, I just think it's refreshing, and there is no possibility of you getting bored at any point during this because it's an engaging conversation in the class. And it's about addressing tough issues that are grey. It's not like saying, oh, I've read the case and I've solved it. This is the answer. This is reflective of the types of grey issues that you're going to have to deal with as a partner in a law firm. So these are the core topics, and these are the areas that we build the program around. Firstly, there's individual leadership, and before you come on the course, you'll undertake a psychometric test online. And I would say this is one of the moments of the program when you can hear a pin drop because it tells you a lot about how you behave and how you differ from other people, because we are wired in different ways. And I would say this is, for me, the biggest light bulb moment when you see partners realizing, that relationship didn't work because I'm wired in a particular way and I'm looking for this. And the person I may be collaborating with, whether it's a colleague or a client, is wired in a different way. So how do you flex and how do you deal with that? And I would say that's absolutely foundational. I think the more that you understand about yourself, the more effective you can be as a leader. And then we start talking about what does leadership mean, because it's a word that's thrown around. But what does it mean in the context of a law firm? One of the things I think we bring out is that there is a real difference between leading in a professional service firm, whether it's lawyers, accountants, management consultants, and leading in a corporate. The structure of a corporate means it's much more able to be command and control. And as you go through an organization, your role will change. I always say that, somebody who starts in a software company writing software and rising to be managing director or CEO doesn't spend 80% of their time still writing software. The leadership becomes the job. In professional service firms, everything is piled on top. So you're still going to be doing your legal work, but this is piled on top. And it's kind of strange, but it also works. There's no doubt it's hugely effective. And it comes down often to juggling. How do you manage the workload? And we give a lot of help on that and show how people are doing that successfully. Understanding the law firm environment is really two things. It's about what are the levers inside a law firm that make things profitable and successful, and what's happening in the external environment. I do honestly say we have on the faculty people who are, I would say without doubt, the leading thinkers in what's happening in the world for law firms. So you really get their absolutely up to the minute advice on what the changes are. And I would say, kind of can say this almost every year, but we're facing huge changes. I think law firms are pretty robust facing big changes. It's almost surprising, really, but we came through the global financial crisis, we came through COVID. Now there's talk of the impact of AI. I'm on the side of feeling we're going to cope with it. We're going to absorb it and use it and be successful with it. But it is a time when you need to start understanding these two things. What are the levers internally that make for success or failure? And what's happening in the external environment, not just for law firms, but in the world globally. Issues like changes in the supply of contracts and the global shift. Collaboration, well, we have on the faculty Heidi Gardner, who literally wrote the book on collaboration. And the benefit, of course, we can all understand the benefit of working together towards a common aim, but achieving it is quite tough. And it's often just because we end up in a law firm so focused on our own issues And then persuading partners to work with you can be a tough ask. So how do you make that work? And what's in it for all the parties, and really opening people's eyes on that. So I'd say, again, that's a core part of success. Competitive strategy, we have, as Carrie mentioned, we've got Felix, written wonderful works on competitive strategy. And there's kind of two elements to that. It's about how do I win work from other firms? What's special about me and my firm? And the other half of it being, well, how understanding how clients choose, and it's bringing those two parts together. And again, very interactive exercises, people put into teams and pulling apart what makes their firm unique. Why should the client use us rather than somebody else? Very buzzy, great fun. And I would say really lays the foundation. And I really can't start looking at this too soon, because I always say it helps you to create the future rather than the future just happening to you. And we see this in the room where people see these models, they start using them. And I think it is about equipping people with a set of tools that they can use when they leave the program. And really enjoy doing so. And we do get feedback from people who've been on the program. And as Carrie said, it really does change the way they think. And we often find that when somebody comes from a firm, they want their colleagues to come so that there's a common language and a common understanding of what the issues are and what some of the toolkits they can use are, kind of equipping everybody with a bit of a helicopter vision, so that when a problem arises, they can kind of lift above it and say, what's really going on here and how can we tackle it? And if we click on, we get into some of the detail of the types of issues that are covered on the program, and we start breaking it down. Now, I would say one of the things that we obviously survey the people who before they come on, and we survey the participants afterwards. What comes across is I need tips and tricks that I can use starting next Monday. So it's not just getting an intellectual appreciation of these issues, but it's feeling actually I can do something about it and I can start on Monday. And if you look at some of these, how do you deal with difficult colleagues? I mean, that's one of the challenges you're going to have across your career. Not everybody's going to be helping and running in the same direction as you. Something that comes up time and again from partners, and I think this reflects well on them, is a desire to give effective feedback to associates. They know they need to give feedback because there is an element of a teaching and training role when you're a partner, and you can make a massive difference to the success of your associates if you put time into that and help them and guide them. On the other hand, partners say, I find it difficult because I'm giving feedback perhaps because something is not up to spec, it's not what I wanted, or a meeting's gone badly. And so I want to actually find ways of giving feedback in ways that inspire the associate rather than demotivate them. And so we give them frameworks and let them practice them, because a lot of this is actually about practicing together. How clients choose is a key element of the business development elements of it. And we do focus quite a bit on this, is that when you're having conversations with clients, what would make them give you more work? We know that actually doing any kind of a hard sell is going to turn off the clients, just as it turns us off when people try to sell to us. So we say it's about how do you build deeper and more valuable relationships with the clients? And Carrie mentioned this, that it's a journey from being a technical expert, which is the kind of entry point, and transitioning from that, from somebody who really adds value to the client's business. And I was recently with a group of partners, and they described it as, we need to think about the client when they're not in front of us. And I do think there's been a risk over the last few years that we've been so busy, particularly during COVID and beyond, that we've been so busy that there's been a temptation to only think of the client when we're doing a piece of work for them and then go on to the next piece of work. The research, and there's substantial research with clients, says that actually what they want from their lawyers are people who are interested in them and their business. And if you become just transaction, if you say I'm a real estate attorney and when you need real estate, I'm here ready for you, then that's how they position you. So when other things come up, then they're not going to think of you. And where we want you to become is really the gateway. The client sees you as the gateway to all of the expertise of the firm, that you're regularly in contact with them, you're building a real relationship, and whatever comes up, they think, well, actually, I'm gonna have a chat with you and see what your views are. And that really opens up so many possibilities. And Heidi, in particular, through collaboration, shows the benefit of achieving that role so that the client sees you in that position. Helping others grow, again, I would say this has become really important. Again, a risk because of COVID and working from home is a risk that we're not spending as much time as we should be in mentoring and bringing on that next generation. And something that's often discussed on the program are the generational issues. Do people have the same attitudes as they cross the generations, and how do you manage that? And as I say, all of this is about, in every area, making you feel through case studies, through examples, through class discussion, that you have a toolkit, and a toolkit that you can use to make things better as you go forward. And if we can click on, this is one of the fundamental models, I think. There's a Professor Tom DeLonge and Jack Gabaro over at Harvard Business School. There's a book they wrote about when professionals have to lead. And I think I would say the research on professional service firms being something different, and they are a substantial part of the economy, and they have a lot in common, all professional service firms. The research on this started 40 plus years ago at Harvard Business School. I would say the program originally being developed by Professor Jay Lorsch there. And they were saying, what do we need to understand about professional service firms? What's different? And this is one of the models. And we think this model gives us something quite interesting, which is, this is saying what makes a leader successful in a law firm. And as you can see, there's personal example, there's commitment, there's execution, and there's direction. At Cambridge University, they have a 360 tool, and they ask people, how is your partner performing? And the one that is found not to exist is direction. In other words, what happens is the partners end up very focused on, yes, the client's demands, but really this month's and this quarter's figures. And that's not being a leader, that's being a manager of a workload. And what the people in the team want is this sense of direction, this feeling of, where are we going? Where are we as a team going to be in 5 years' time? What type of work are we going to be doing? What type of clients? What geographies? What's the ambition for our team? And that's the bit I think that gets missed if you're too busy. And we do really explore this idea of getting things that are important but not urgent. And important but not urgent things like setting a strategy and direction for your team is something that just can be put off forever, because there's always a client emergency. And we show, well, how do you actually overcome that? And we show how the successful partners manage to integrate this into their timetable, and also show you that actually it's doable. I think when I first approached the idea of, well, what's the strategy for your team? I thought, well, that's quite a big question. I don't know. So we give some real examples of how it can be done and show that it is doable, and it needs to be part of your successful career as a law firm partner. Kerry, if you can click it on. And the other thing we explore is this idea of networking. And something that we found through our own research with successful law firm partners was that they didn't do it on their own. That the most successful partners have built a network. Now, I would say for the average typical law firm partner, the idea of networking is typically seen as very negative. It's seen as going to awful cocktail party events or conferences and trying to socialize and get around. And we would say, firstly, we can show you how you can do that. No matter how much you think you can't, I think we can give you some tips and tricks on how you can actually do that. But it's much more than that. It's about networking inside your firm and actually developing the support group. And that support group will be widespread. It'll be colleagues, it'll be associates, it'll be senior partners who become mentors, it'll be clients. Clients are an absolutely fantastic source of advice. And they're too little used. Something I did in my career is if I was struggling with something chewy, or actually I was thinking about directions for my own team and strategy, I'd go and ask the advice of my clients. And we also give some tips and tricks here. And there's something that we do explain to people and explore, which is often called the Benjamin Franklin effect. I tended to call it the investment effect. But it's a kind of a strange thing. If you ask people for advice, then they feel more invested in you and they're more likely to help you in the future. So it's kind of the wrong way around. I've asked somebody for advice. They've really given me advice and given me their time, and they now are more likely to help me in the future. And one of the things I actually say to new partners that you can do, and which is I would say often quite dramatically useful, is to go to the more experienced partners, say, look, I admire what you've done. I admire what you've achieved. What advice would you give to a partner in my position who's just qualified or 3 years or whatever it is? What advice would you give me? I think this wins on 3 levels. Firstly, lawyers are compulsive advisors. They actually like being asked for advice. They're good at giving advice. So I think it's a tick because they'll enjoy giving you advice. Secondly, when they've actually achieved things, I think it's great to actually say, I admire what you've achieved in this firm, because we are praised far too little as law firm partners. I hope it wasn't just me that was praised far too little, but we tend to know if we've done something wrong. But there's often not a lot of support when we've done something right. So I think to say, actually, you've done something, you've really achieved something. And then thirdly, you get this investment effect, which is that once they've helped you, they'll kind of feel invested in you. They'll want you to succeed. And you can go back and see them a couple of months later, tell them what you've been doing. And I think this was a big eye-opener for me, because I think as a partner, I felt I had to prove myself and I had to show what I could do and prove myself to the firm. And it's wrong. And actually, when we interview partners, we will often find the senior partner saying, when somebody becomes a partner in our firm, I want them to succeed because their success is good for the whole firm. And so, you'd be surprised the extent to which the more senior partners are invested in your success, and they want to help you. And, if you don't ask, I think it's a huge missed opportunity. So those are the types of things that we tell people, and we do send them away with an idea of a network plan. What network are you going to build? Be intentional about it. Don't just kind of let it happen because you bump into people, but think, who would be really useful in my network if I'm going to be successful? And as we found from our own research, it's those partners who built this network who've done the best. So yes, actually, that's next one. Yeah.
I want to pick up on something we both have mentioned a little bit, and you probably will expect it already, but everything we talk about on the program is research backed. And one thing that I think both of us love about working with lawyers is that you've got a set of people who actually are kind of interested in the academic and research background of why we're giving pieces of advice, but it's not totally theoretical and academic, right? So we really work hard to bring identified practices and outcomes that are research based into real life with this idea of strategies and behaviors that you can use when you go back. So here we have again our core learning areas: leadership of yourself, leading people in teams, law firm environment, collaboration, and competitive strategy. And that's how we divide up our time during the almost week that we have you there. And I just want to show you, before we wrap up, I just want to show you a sample schedule. And if you come on the program, you won't get something that looks like this. You get this is like our behind the scenes version of what the schedule should look like. But you can see it's color coded based on the topics, so that we are ensuring that there's a mix of each of those 5 topics. And sometimes there are 2 in a row because they sort of build on each other. And so you get a really interesting mix of faculty. You're focusing only really in these five important areas. And this is sort of what a day looks like. So you come in, you're going to have class, you've got lunch, you've got break, you've got class, lunch, break. So it follows the same pattern day over day. So we wanted to give you kind of a visual of how we build some of these things into the week. And I think that's it for our outward projection of information. And we do have a little bit of time for questions if people have questions. And I'm looking in the Q&A.
Got one coming to me, which is it ongoing learning? In other words, is it that there's something else after the program, or is it the program and that's it? What happens after the program ends?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's a good one. There are a few things that happen. And actually, one thing that always comes up at the faculty end is it would be great to have an ALP2, right? Like, is there a way we could sort of have people reconvene to take further learnings? But we do a couple of things. We give you lots of things that you can take away to work with. I think you will find that our faculty are surprisingly accessible. So if you're really puzzling on something that you're trying to implement, we're quite amenable to having a chat with you or hopping on a Zoom to talk to you. Our team at the law school works very hard to keep the alumni community connected. So it's sort of like once you're in exec ed, you're always in exec ed. And there are lots of other opportunities for formal learning in exec ed, master classes and specific deep dives into strategy or collaboration or other topics. And then we also encourage you within the program to make yourselves accountable to one another. So we really build in some strong fabric in the program of ways to keep your momentum going, in part by relying on some of your peers. So
I think people do tend to set up a WhatsApp group and stay in contact, because it's something that you go through and you kind of make friends for life actually out of it. And I would say what I think found lovely is the way that the participants each year really do stay in touch with each other. And because they're going through such common experiences, kind of share what's happening to them.
Okay, so let's see. This leadership course seems geared toward law firm life versus those working in a leadership position with in-house work. Is this accurate? I think that is broadly accurate, and most participants will probably be from law firms. That said, we have had inside people in the programs before, and we've had administrators who are not practicing law inside the programs. And fundamentally, the set of the content that we teach will be very useful to somebody who is in-house as well. There might be a couple of places where the conversation is a bit geared more toward the law firm experience, but much of what we talk about we talk about it in the context of law firms, but it's not only applicable to law firms. And when we have people in the room who are not from law firms, we are careful to speak more broadly about any particular topic.
I think also, Carrie, what I found is that we have, I would say the majority of, without doubt, a law firm, but there will be people in-house, and everybody wants to hear from them. Because
that's true.
If you're a partner in a law firm, the opportunity to have this kind of really informal conversation with somebody in-house and start to dig in what it's like, what do law firms do for them that they really like, what do law firms do that drive them mad, all that type of thing is hugely valuable. So actually, for those people who do come along from the in-house side, I think they get an opportunity to have a real input on what it feels like on the other side and what that can mean for these partners. So
and it's very Chatham House rules, right? So there's a lot of candor in the room, and people are really clear to be respectful that people might talk about particular challenges or situations that they have. And you can speak about them openly, because we're all trying to help each other, solve a complex set of leadership challenges. There's another question about the number of participants that are usually on the program and US versus international composition. So this one varies a little. We have intentionally kept this program fairly small, partly because it becomes quite a close-knit group and it's very intimate in sort of a good way. So I think the biggest we've ever done it in my time has been between 40 and 50 people. We often keep it around 30. Which means, of course, that it fills up quickly. And And the mix varies from year to year. I don't think there's ever been a year where we've not had multiple international participants. I don't want to guess on percentages, but I feel like if we, I don't know, there are always multiple international participants, and usually kind of from all over the world, not just from Europe or the UK or something like that. And that does sort of vary year by year. So we had years when everybody's budgets were tight and people were not willing to send somebody from Singapore, to Cambridge, Massachusetts. And then we have other years where we've had a bigger percentage of international, but it is definitely it is not a US program.
No, it's
I mean,
pretty,
Kevin and I will both come from London. We both live in London, so we add an international flavor.
it's pretty global, and I think that's actually really useful because it is really interesting to hear about the different aspects from different countries. But yeah, I just said it's a pretty global program. Yeah. There's a question about
Yeah, go
bringing
ahead.
colleagues, and this often comes up. A lot of firms will send one person, and others will send two or three. I think we cap. Is it three or something like that? But
I think it's between 4 and 5 of
that's
a
it. Okay.
cohort coming together.
Yeah.
But I expect were you going to say that what's great about the cohorts when they come together? Do you want me to say that? You can say it. Good luck.
Yeah, it is great if there's a few from a firm, because actually it means that they can take it back as a group really
Yeah.
and start playing with it, playing all these tools we've given them. But
Yeah.
I would have said majority are ones and twos, is it? Something
Yeah,
like
or I think at least sort of half, right? So it might
yeah.
be 2 or 3 people from several different firms, and then a bunch of people who've come one person only. Both ways have their benefits, and both are welcome. So if you want to bring a friend, yes, you're able to come with a friend.
Um, Application deadline
Hmm,
mid-January, I think.
January 15th, yeah. And cost also, if we're talking about application deadline, the cost is $14,500. There is an admission process. So there is an application. It is not particularly onerous, but this is not the sort of thing where you just sign up and say like, oh, I'd like to go on the Harvard course. I've signed up and paid. We actually have a team who reviews the applications. Often the answers are clear why someone's a good fit for the program. If we have any questions about whether someone would be a good fit for the program or the program would be a good fit for them, we may do some follow up. We sometimes have people reach out to us and say, would I be a good fit for the program? Here's my background. So we really want to make sure that the mix of people in the room are people who really want to be there and who are going to get some benefit from this program at whatever place they are working and wherever they are in their leadership journey.
I've got something on the size of the firms involved, and it is
Good.
complete gamut.
Yeah.
It is,
Yep.
yeah, it actually is, from relatively small firms into the very biggest of the global firms. And again, I think that's quite useful to have them in the same room and suddenly
Mm-hmm.
realize how much they've got in common.
Yeah.
Um,
It's always kind of shocking, isn't it? Because you've got somebody coming from, a sort of global multinational firm, not feeling like they would have the same problem as somebody who's from a New York City only small law firm. And it's because of the structure of the way we practice law and the way we in law, whether in-house or in firms, tend to develop or not develop our leaders organizationally. The shared challenges are often the same, and the problem solving ideas are sometimes different. So we see a really robust exchange of ideas from
yeah.
different sizes of firms, which has been a really nice thing about this program.
And I think it's because what we're focusing on is that really key transition from being a great lawyer. And, you just don't get to partner unless you're a great lawyer. You can do the legal work, can manage the team, you can actually deliver for the client. So that's absolutely the kind of price of entry to partnership. And it's that transition from how do I get to that to somebody who's actually set a future and can actually motivate people. And I would have said this whole idea of motivating a team has become much, much more important because of generational changes. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
there was a time where there was much more of a push that almost people, when they joined a law firm, their ambition was to be partner. And it was almost like you were
Mm-hmm.
selecting from almost everybody, jockeying for position to become partner, into a change where actually a lot of people were saying, I'm not sure I want to be partner in this firm. I don't mind doing a few years. So how do you manage against that? and get a cohesive team when you've got that happening. So
And I would say that the parallel to that on the GC on the inside legal teams is that often internal legal functions are sort of flat, or there's not a clear path to advancement, right? Like you may be a brilliant sort of 2 levels down from the general counsel, but your general counsel's 40 years old, like, and you won't ascend to that role. And so sort of what does that mean for somebody trying to manage these people, and what are the options that are or not available, and how does that create tension from the perspective of somebody who's trying to lead and motivate and manage effectively. There's another question about what if I have to miss part of the program. The answer to that is don't sign up for the program. To be brutally honest, if you have to miss a day or a half day, come see us next year. Like it really is. You need to be there for all 4 days. It's not the kind of thing where you can miss chunks of it. Sometimes things happen after someone signed up for the program, and then our team will work with someone to figure out, do they come on a different year, or sort of how do we handle that? But definitely, if you expect that you would have to be gone for part of the program, it's better not to sign up for it.
Yeah, I've got a question on whether it's law firm strategy or team strategy. I would say this is about the strategy for your team. Because at this stage in your career, it's about building the success of your team. And I do think at that level, you're able to develop a really clear strategy, often with your team and with colleagues and peers and more senior partners, rather than saying, well, what's the strategy of the entire firm? And when you get to this level, whether it's your team, whether it's a practice or a sector group, it is very much a focus of how do I beat the competition? That's literally what it comes down to. And we run an exercise, Felix runs an exercise, which is about thinking about your team and your most direct competitors and developing what's called a value map. So actually start to write down where are my strengths, where am I not so strong? How does that compare with the 2 or 3 other firms that this client may be thinking about? And I would have said again, it's a real lights on moment that, how do I beat the competitor? You can't honestly say often that, oh, I'm a much better lawyer.
Yeah, that's not it. That's not going to be it for anybody.
They can probably get very similar level of legal advice from another firm. So it forces you to say, well, why should they use me and my team or me and my sector group? And I found that I would have said it's a lengthy exercise. People spend real time on it. They come back and they discuss it. And I think that's the other thing is that, you put into teams, the team of you work on this issue, and then you come back and present, and there's a conversation going on. And I think it ends up with being very robust conversations as a result. So you feel you've actually given this a chance. And it's not just you've heard a lecture, but how do I apply it? So I would have said that's one of the most important things we deliver.
Yeah. And also interestingly, the strategy work you'll do with Felix on this program, you'll apply it in a particular way. But again, it's a framework that you can use for other strategic analyses you need to do. So you could do something about it at the team level, and you're not thinking about competitor law firms, you're thinking about competition for talent within your team. Or you can use it at the practice group level and think about what you're doing there. You can use it at the sector level. So it's, again, a set of tools that you can use again and again. We will help you use it in a particular way in the classroom, but it's intended to be quite versatile. I just put the cover slide back on. Somebody had asked about confirming the dates. So it's 24 to 27 March, 2005, obviously. And another question we had is about the materials, how you get them. You will get them on a platform called Canvas, which if any of you have kids in high school or university, you may have heard lots about Canvas. When I started using it, it's completely new to me. You'll get a login. You'll have effectively an online set of notebooks where the materials will be, and that will include agendas, any of the pre-reading you need to do, and everything you need will be in there, including whether there is advanced reading or not, advanced reading for a particular day. So once you're enrolled in the program and once the Canvas platform is set up, it gets sent out to you by email. And I think we usually try to do that about 3 weeks ahead of the program. Even though I think everybody reads everything on the plane on their way to the program, but we still give it out 3 weeks ahead.
If you're very
I think Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say, Kevin?
And if you're very well organized, please do read it 3 weeks ahead.
Yes, yes.
You
Not
will be top of the
discouraging it.
class. You'll get a star.
Exactly. I feel like I think we've gotten, oh, also actually the type coach verifier, which is the diagnostic Kevin mentioned that we do ahead of time. You also get those instructions, obviously in advance of the program, because you need to complete the diagnostic and review your report and bring your report with you to the program. So you'll get that as well with ample time to do it. That only takes about half an hour. I
And I've
think
got a
I
question.
feel like, oh,
Is
to
there
go on.
talk? Is there talk and chalk? I'm not sure there
Mm,
is. I think it's all pretty participative. I think sometimes there'll be an element of let me throw these ideas at you, and then we'll have a
yeah,
discussion. But it's that's why I actually said at the beginning, it's not going to be boring. I don't think at
no.
any point you're going to be bored. It's about throwing out ideas and discussing them, and actually people having different points of view.
Hmm.
We're dealing with grey areas here, and that's something can be quite uncomfortable from a lawyer who's when a client comes to them, the client's looking for an answer. They kind of turn into solutions machines. But these are quite tough grey issues, and so you can have different opinions and discuss them and argue them out in the classroom.
Um, I don't see any new.
Okay.
I think, I mean, look, the bottom line is you just have to get yourself to Cambridge if you want to come in this course, and like we will do everything else. It's made very painless for you. Everything is provided in advance that you need. The hotel is done, the food is done, the times are done.
Yeah.
And it's so that you can really immerse yourself in the work that we're planning to do because it will be hard work, but it will absolutely be worth it. And so the date's here again, and this QR will take you to the link. We can read a little bit more about the program and the program faculty and exec ed in general. And I think we're good. If we haven't
Okay.
got any more questions coming in, I think class dismissed. And we
Lovely.
hope very much to see you in March.
Thanks very much, Kate. Thanks for dialing in. Bye.
Thank you.